We live in a world where Indiana is good. I never thought I'd say that, and if there's one big reason why, it's Curt Cignetti. Whether you hate him or love him, he wins. But the Hoosiers are a completely different program under Sig, and it took no time at all. Indiana is literally coming off of a 3-year stretch where they went 9-27. They sucked, and all it took for a complete 180 turnaround was hiring Curt Cignetti. But how on earth does he do it? Well, players want to play for Curt Cignetti, and it's clear why. And he laid out how he sells recruits pretty clearly.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
And he isn't wrong.
But first, thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring today's video. The days of waiting in long lines at midnight to get the best deals on Black Friday are long gone. All you have to do now is check out our partners over at DraftKings Sportsbook who have touchdowns on sale all weekend long. That's something to get excited about. And that's not it. Right now, new DraftKings customers who bet just $5 on any bet will get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up using our promo code JDPROD. Check out the DraftKings Sportsbook app all weekend long to stay up to date on all the touchdown offers available. And don't forget to stay in on the action and use your $150 in bonus bets on DraftKings same game parlays, where you can combine multiple bets from the same game for a shot at an even bigger payout. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still get in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have a shot to win cash prizes. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and sign up using our promo code JDPROD. New DraftKings customers who bet just $5 on any wager will get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. That's promo code JDPROD only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Thank you again to DraftKings for sponsoring today's video. Let's get right back to it.
Curt Cignetti was born in Pittsburgh, but funny enough, ended up on the other side of the backyard brawl, playing quarterback at West Virginia. And funny enough, his first coaching gig out of college was at Pitt. He returned to Pitt years later after making stops at Davidson, Rice, and Temple. In 2000, he went to NC State, and there, he was the quarterback's coach for a very familiar name, Philip Rivers. Now, I think everyone knows Cignetti is a pretty good coach, and he has been his entire career, but he's also been a damn good recruiter. And right before he left NC State, he recruited Russell Wilson to go there. Cignetti made the jump to Big Bad Alabama, where he was both the wide receivers coach and recruiting coordinator. He coached Julio Jones, and he recruited both Mark Ingram, who went on to win a Heisman Trophy, and Dante Hightower to come play for the Crimson Tide. In 2011, Cignetti finally got his first head coaching job at IUP, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, a Division II school. It was certainly a familiar place for him. His father, Frank Cignetti Sr., was the head coach at IUP from 1986 to 2005, and he even played there in the 50s. He took IUP to the D2 title game twice and is now a member of the College Football Hall of Fame. He was also once the head coach at West Virginia, and it actually doesn't end there. Curt's brother, Frank Jr., also played at IUP and coached there. He's been coaching for a long time. He's been a quarterback coach for a bunch of NFL teams and offensive coordinator for a handful of power conference college teams. So it was up to Curt to carry on the family legacy at IUP, and he inherited a pretty bad team, but it took no time at all for him to turn it all around. His second season, they went 12-2, won the conference, and made the quarterfinal. That's how fast Sig can do it. That did end up being his best overall record at IUP, but he did take the Crimson Hawks to back-to-back second rounds in 2015 and 2016 and went 6-1 in the PSAC both years. In 6 seasons under Cignetti, IUP went 53-17 and made the D2 NCAA tournament 3 times. And then Sig decided to make the jump to the FCS. Curt Cignetti is very well known for his time at JMU, but before he was at JMU, he was at Elon, where he ended JMU's 22-game CAA winning streak and 19-game home winning streak, beating them in Harrisonburg, really just right up the road from me. That was year 2 with the Phoenix. In year 1, Sig managed to take a horrible team and turned them around for an 8-4 season, even made the NCAA tournament. The next season, they beat JMU, made it back to the tournament, but right after beating JMU, Cignetti then decided to join them, becoming the new head coach at James Madison. Now, I actually got to cover Cignetti and even talked to him in a press conference during his first season at JMU back in 2019. I didn't really know much about him at the time, but that was a pretty big game. JMU was number 2, Villanova was number 5, and man, JMU had some dudes, specifically their quarterback, a fella by the name of Ben DiNucci. Yeah, that Ben DiNucci. Now, JMU was good before Cignetti. He didn't have to turn them around. Mike Houston didn't get fired. He was the head coach before. He actually left for ECU. Cignetti took over, and he didn't just keep rolling. JMU got even better. In year 1, they won the CAA, a pretty tough FCS conference, went 14-2 overall, and oh yeah, they made it to the national championship, but couldn't beat NDSU and Trey Lance. JMU continued its terror over the FCS for the next 2 years, going 19-3 overall and making the semifinal both seasons. But then it happened. JMU made the massive jump from the FCS to the FBS to play in the Sun Belt, and that's not an easy jump. There's a pretty stark difference in talent and abilities sometimes, but it really does help when you're talking about a top FCS team, and the Sun Belt isn't a power conference, but it is a good conference, and JMU was able to step right in and look like it belonged. They went 8-3 overall in year 1, 6-2 in conference to tie in their division. It was a heck of a season, but JMU didn't get to play in a bowl game. Specifically, they weren't allowed to get an automatic bid bowl for the next 2 years in the FCS. JMU tried to appeal, but it didn't work. The next season, JMU was even more of a wagon. I mean, they started off 10-0. They had a win over Virginia in the mixed. I know UVA wasn't very good, but it's still a power conference team. JMU was even ranked at one point and eventually landed College game day, but did fall short against App State in overtime. Still, JMU wrapped up 11-1, but wait, the Dukes couldn't get an automatic bowl bid. But if not enough teams won 6 games, they could get in. And that is exactly what happened. They ended up going and playing in the Armed Forces Bowl, but did lose to Air Force. It was still super cool to have JMU in a bowl nonetheless. Shout out to my boy Joey, who literally brought me back a shirt towel program from that game down in Fort Worth, Texas. At the end of the day, it was a successful year 2 in the FBS for sure. The Dukes loved Curt Cignetti, but not anymore. In fact, by the time JMU did play their first ever bowl game, he was gone. Curt Cignetti accepted the head coach job at Indiana. Tom Allen had been axed after 7 years, and Indiana did have some pretty fun times with him. And who knows what could have happened if Michael Penix stayed healthy. But the last 3 seasons just hadn't been very pretty in Bloomington. Indiana had won 3 Big Ten games over the past 3 years. The end of the Allen era was gross, and it was just time for a change. So why not bring in the guy who you know can win? Not only did Sig dip on JMU, but it left a sour taste in the Dukes fans' mouths. JMU hired Bob Chesney to be the new head coach, and he had to start a lot from scratch. Not only did a ton of JMU's team transfer away, like starting quarterback Jordan McLeod, who's now at Texas State, but 9 different guys went with Cignetti to IU. Sig really did have to completely start over at Indiana just from scratch, and he was very, very busy in the transfer portal, and it's working big time. You always have to start with quarterback, and that takes us to Curtis Rourke. He was just an absolute beast in the MAC at Ohio, especially in 2022. Now he's at Indiana, and he missed the win over Washington, but he has been playing some great ball. Before that injury, he had thrown 15 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Top running back Justice Ellison is a Wake Forest transfer and is actually from the state of Virginia. Tyson Lawson is also a stud in the backfield, who's one of those guys to follow Sig from JMU, as is top wide receiver Elijah Surratt, top tight end Zach Horton. It's the exact same case on the defensive side of the ball too. Mikhail Kamara and James Carpenter are menaces on the defensive line, and both came over from, you guessed it, JMU. Indiana is damn good, and it's because of a lot of JMU dudes. Indiana didn't have any issues with their non-conference games. Nobody really too tough to beat down. FIU, Western Illinois, Charlotte. But winning in the Big Ten is really hard, and Indiana has fought through it. It does help when the tougher Big Ten matchups were so late in the season, like Michigan and Ohio, but Indiana proved that it could beat everybody else in the Big Ten. Indiana was truly dominant. It is absolutely incredible what Curt Cignetti was able to do in such a short amount of time at Indiana. He is every bit as good as advertised and is in the position to seriously have the Hoosiers contending for a long time. Not many people can recruit the way he has, and it is certainly easier to get kids to come play for an FBS school in Bloomington than it was to convince them to move to Elon or Harrisonburg to play in the FCS. I really do fear this is only the beginning for Indiana. but it is no joke in the Big Ten. Curt Cignetti is playing with the big dogs now, but at every turn in his coaching career, he's proven to be able to play with the best of the best. And it feels like that is going to be the case at Indiana too.